Linda Vista Abandoned Hospital Occurrence. In a thread about the abandoned Linda Vista Hospital, I was asked to post the story here. I filmed 3 movies there in the last year. I love that place. I'm also not a heavy believer in the paranormal, but I've had a few unexplained occurrences go down there. While the crew was filming, in another part of the hospital, I was the only one hanging out in the craft services area. I sat down at one of the tables and was checking my phone, pretty sure I was accidentally showing a bit of butt crack. I then felt what I thought was a finger shove itself in between my butt cheeks. Thinking it was someone from the set fucking around, I turned around and there was no one there, no one hiding, no one was near me. After realizing this, I quickly ran to where the rest of the crew was. Lastly, another odd occurrence happened to one of our special effects guys. He was filming in the area and kept going deeper and deeper into the hospital. There was a room that was deadbolted and he couldn't get through. However, a window leading into that room was broken. As he put his camera through the hole, it shut off. The camera would not turn back on even though the battery was at least half full. Taking the battery out and returning it still prevented it from turning on. The crew member made it back to everyone else, took the battery out of the camera, put it back in, and was able to turn it on again. Never had a problem like that before, and never had one since. A creepy place for sure. In an abandoned church. I have been to many places in my experiences as a medium to try and communicate with ghosts. Most of them with my girlfriend Amy. She is also a medium, although she's not as sensitive as me, and is my support whenever I do ghost trips like this. However, somewhere I did not expect to go was an abandoned church in my hometown, when I had been near that place when I was with my family in the holidays. I felt a strange pulling sensation and had seen faces in the windows. So, later on that December, between Christmas and New Year's, me and Amy decided to go to the church. As soon as I walked through the door, I was hit with a wave of energy that made me fall over. Amy immediately suggested that we get out, but I told her that I just had trouble adjusting, so we both decided to stay. We went in between 2 of the church pews, closed our eyes, and tried to find the spirit. Immediately, I felt a spirit come very close to me. I felt its cold. Then, Amy gasped very loudly, her head shook a bit, and looked at me. "Amy?" I asked to make sure. "Hey, it's me," she said, in a far too happy tone for someone in this haunted church. "No, it's not." The spirit wearing my girlfriend then started to get a depressed look after she realized that she couldn't trick me. Amy was possessed. This was the first time Amy had been possessed with me in the room, and the 5th time in general. Normally they try to possess me because my sensitivity to spirits made it easier for them, hence why Amy's possession caused that gasping. The spirit explained that Amy's body was more similar to the one she had in life. I asked her if I could talk to her more about who she was, and she said yes. But this spirit was far too focused on touching things and caressing her own face to tell much. The best I could gather from the time she did talk was that her death caused the abandonment of the church. After an hour, I told the spirit that me and Amy had to go. Once the spirit asked if she could take Amy's body out to see the world again, I said, "Hell no, you won't use my girlfriend for a joyride, okay?" In the most polite way I could. It would be different if it was my own body, since I could kick them out, but Amy was still not trained enough for that. So, the spirit left her body, and I got Amy out of there just in case. Amy felt wary after that experience, but she was alright. Just wanted to talk about the first time I saw Amy being possessed. I am both proud and frustrated. An abandoned house. 4 of my friends and I decided to go ghost hunting at this abandoned house a few years ago. We go in and it's super friggin' creepy. There's drawings all over the walls, satanic shit. The floors were caving in and it was raining, super creepy. So, we go upstairs and sit in the center of the room. We set up the equipment and start asking questions. My friend's girlfriend kept saying she wanted to go outside and see if there was anything out there. I told her it would be hard to capture any voices because of the outside noise and the rain. It would be useless. Suddenly, my friend's girlfriend states that she heard scratching coming from one room. Being skeptical, I told her it was bullshit. We went to that room. There was a friggin' pentagram drawn on the floor. It covered the space of the whole room. I don't really like messing with shit like that. So at that point, I look at my friends and say, fuck that, fuck this, I'm out of here. I hand them the EVP stuff and walked out of the house. It was raining harder, and my friend's car was locked. We were trespassing, so I thought I'd be useful and be on the lookout for cops. Sure enough, I see a cop car in the distance. He stops outside the house. We were smart and parked down the street. So I called my friend and warned them of the cop and turned off all the lights and to shut up. Eventually, the cop finally leaves. Suddenly, 2 of my friends come running out. I asked them where my other friend and his girlfriend were at. They told me that they were getting creeped out, so they left the 2 in the house because they wanted to keep investigating it. Within 2 minutes, they come running out and tell us to get inside the car. We quickly drive off. I asked them what happened, and they said that they kept hearing noises behind them. We get to my friend's girlfriend's apartment, and we start listening to the EVP. Not much happened. Suddenly, I hear a whisper near the end. There's nothing outside. It talked over my friend and his girlfriend right before they stated they wanted to leave. It was like mocking us, saying that there was nothing outside. I got chills hearing that. They got chills hearing that. They also said there were a lot of dead birds in the basement, and that there were more satanic shit where they were. We haven't gone back since because of how creepy and eerie it was. Trip to an abandoned school. So, my dad came back from his job last week with one of the coolest stories I've heard so far. My dad works on 6 days off 5, about 12 hours north of where we live in northern Ontario. He has to fly in on many occasions into remote locations, and he has been working on a lot of native reserve recently. Well, on his last trip up, him and his crew, they heard talk of an old abandoned boarding school about 45 minutes outside of the reserve. So, the crew and the rest of them, they ponied up some ATVs and headed down the very unkept, very abandoned trail that one of the locals said led to the school. Well, it's here that they said things started to get very, very weird. It started when the first of the brand new ATVs decided to quit working. Dad said it just stopped. Well, they stopped, and when the first of the brand new ATVs decided to quit working, they took a look at what was wrong, and it turned out that the battery was completely dead. Well, they jumped it, and it wouldn't have seemed weird had it not been for the fact that before they reached the school, every single one of their bikes had fallen to this weird sickness. But anywho, once they reached campus, and I say campus because my dad said this place was pretty big. It had a gym, 2 boarding houses, a faculty house, and a main school building. All the buildings were very old and very run down. It wasn't until they reached the sign that they realized what kind of school they had arrived at. It was an old, abandoned native residential school. You know, one of the schools that thousands of native children were abused, murdered, and forced to forget their ancestry. Yeah, most of my dad's crew were kinda unsettled at this point, especially one of the native fellows, who refused to go exploring. My dad said they started in the gym, which looks as though some form of class had been going on just before the place had been vacated. There were bikes everywhere, just lying all over the gym floor. Then they went to the classrooms, where he said books and papers were still on the desk, and it was only in one room that it looked like anything was stored, and there was all desks piled ceiling high and ice skates all over the floors. Now, this is where it gets creepy. When they finally made their way to the boys' residence building, my dad purposely separated himself from the group, saying he had to take a leak. Now my dad is fearless, at least in my mind. He's 6'4", 210 pounds, and built like a brick shithouse. I'm 19 years old and I've never seen my dad scared. Even as he told me this story, he had a grin on his face. But as he told me this part of the story, he still had that grin on his face. But I could see something in his eyes, in which I've never seen before. Well, as his buddies finally got in the front door, he had found a window open at the back and had climbed through before them. He walked alone a bit down the hall until he heard one of the guys coming. At this point, he ducked into a room without looking in and waited until his buddy was right in front of him, then said in his lowest, creepiest voice, "Get out!" When he said that, his mate booked it out of there without even realizing that it was him, screaming for the other guys who had went up to the floor above them. Well, my dad had a really good laugh at this. Now, as he tells me this part of the story, he keeps that smile of his going, but I can see something flicker behind his eyes. And he said that while he was laughing, he heard this chuckle behind him, and said it was the kind of thing you let out when you hear an okay joke, but nothing to laugh out loud at. Well, he spins around, fist cocked back ready to rumble, only to see when he's faced with an empty room. Well, mostly. It was what was in the room that I think that truly unsettled my dad. He said that there was an old spring iron frame bed with a ratty old mattress on it, with 2 leather bracelet straps on both the headboard and the baseboard, and what looked to be very, very old blood caked into the mattress. Well, it was at this point he decided to leave and join the native guy by the ATVs. Turns out the guy he had scared before had actually beat him there. He was currently telling the native crew member what had happened until he saw my dad's shit-eating grin as he walked towards the two, that he realized he had been doped. At this point, it pretty much ends with some fuck yous and laughs, and they left the school. I know this is very long and maybe not as scary as some of the other stuff on this page, but this story got me. And it wasn't just the story, but the fact that I actually think I saw fear or something like that in my dad's eyes, or heard it in his voice as he told me that one particular part of the story. So thanks again. Leave any questions in the comments. I'll be sure to answer. Strange encounter at an abandoned asylum. Last weekend, we were out drinking with a larger group, 10 to 14 members, and we decided to hit a nearby abandoned asylum. Stories were told, usual haunting stuff, like a graffiti artist, not the artist type, but I don't really know how to say it in English. We were crazed into the building and made a lot of crazed paintings. I saw a few unusual from him. It was really a bit odd, since the style was matching, but it didn't seem to have any meaning like the other ones. But sadly, I missed the most interesting ones, really abstract man painting, and a few Get Out and You Will Die Here because they were at the entrance, and I forgot to check them out when I was going in and leaving. The building itself wasn't that big, one-story building, nothing noteworthy. We mostly hanged out at a big balcony roof-like area, with plenty of space. The building itself was stripped empty, painted all over with various tags, and with tires, because it was used as a paintball area. Strangely, it didn't seem to have any traces of hobos. It was curious because the small forest that surrounded it had plenty of them, or at least I was told, because I didn't see anyone on the way there or back. About an hour or two after arriving, I decided with two friends to explore the place a bit. We weren't drunk, a bit tipsy at the best, but nothing serious. I was holding on to my phone for lighting, and I was walking at the back. We arrived into a bigger room, like a hall or something on the ground floor. While I was looking around, my friends reported that they saw something. At this point, I have to state that I am a skeptical person. I mean, not a full skeptic. I really didn't expect anything to be really there. So, I believe in things that are reliable, and reliable people tell me. But I found that most of their stories can easily be debunked, so again, I didn't expect anything. So I thought what I saw was just a shadow or a bush moving, especially since they were pretty much into this kind of stuff. After half a minute or so, they moved into a nearby room. I was about 2 meters away from them. I looked down a small corridor, about 4 to 5 meters long, leading to the outside. It had a few rooms at both sides of this corridor. From the furthest on the left, I noticed one of my idiot friends peeking out, not from the 3-people expedition group, but from somebody who was up on the roof. Probably he thought it was funny to scare the shit out of us or something. So as I was focusing the light on him, he leaned back and hid in that room again. I turned into the other room where my friends were, and then alarmed them that we should expect somebody jumping on and screaming at them. For some reason, we didn't go after him, but headed back onto the roof. Back there, I waited patiently for the other guy to show up with a sad face from the failure to actually scare us. There was only one stair leading up, so he couldn't move past us, so he had to be down there. After about half minute, I was curious and asked the other ones who exactly went down there. They replied with strange faces that everybody is already up. 3 guys went up to a higher roof, and there they were, the suspected people that were trying to scare us. So, that's when I realized the face I saw did not belong to us. The bigger group didn't really care, but the other 2 claimed that they were talking about that face as well, and that was a ghost. The girl even claimed that it didn't have a face, but I wasn't so sure. Yeah, so a hobo was hiding from a group of people, right? Seems plausible, but no. My friend claimed that no hobos don't live here. I just believed him. I urged them to go back and check with me, but they didn't really want to. And I, for easily understandable reasons, sure did not want to go alone. So, we just left it as it is. A while after, we were searching for the girl's backpack. We found it. She just forgot it outside, but what is more interesting is that we passed next to the room where the face was peeking from. There was no room. There was just a sleek doorway. I was a bit shocked. It seemed impossible for anyone to hide behind that sleek thing without noticing his body. Plus, the position of the face strongly suggested that he was peeking from somewhere where he had a lot bigger space. Very strange indeed. I'm still believing in the strong possibility that it was just a hobo, especially since I can't find any information on the building. So, even the asylum title is questionable. But still, it was a very interesting experience I wanted to share.